Hi guys, this is Second Perspective, another episode of QQ. My name is Paul Weston, over there is Mitchell Allen, and today we're going to be doing the discussion, that means there's going to be plenty of spoilers, on Son of Saul. The topic that Mitch and I want to kind of discuss is basically what separates Son of Saul from being a typical Holocaust film. I'm just gonna say it right outward, because I don't even think you actually know this, but I have never seen Schindlers List.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
In fact, I don't know if I've seen many Holocaust films. Now I think about it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Right?
I don't think, I don't think that's like, oh, I've seen so many Bruce Willis movies, or I've seen
Well,
so many.
okay, here's why I brought that up.
It's
Because
not the same.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like the reason I bring this up is that for when we were talking about Beasts of No Nation, I had seen more films that have sort of depicted
Right.
child soldiers and so on and so forth, right? However, I do think, like, first of all, like, I feel like you're going to be a little more articulate on this particular topic, and I can sort of riff off you. But the thing I think that I can sort of speak to is the thing that goes, that pulled me into the film more than just the content, and what sort of elevated it into, not just, I hate saying this, like just another typical Holocaust film, but a film that I think is wonderful or powerful and deserves to stand on its own merit regardless of what kind of film it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think what you're saying is it's more universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense, for sure.
What I take 20 seconds to say, you say in one word, but that's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. You guys.
So anyways, why don't you start us off? I know that you have a few thoughts on here.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're going to talk about what sets it apart, part of it is the choice of cinematic technique. I mean, if you've seen it already, the film is shot. I think it's mostly long takes. Like, I don't think there's a lot of cutting.
Yeah, it's the majority of them are long.
But mostly the technique is to have a close up of Saul's face for almost almost the entirety of the film.
That or the back of his head.
The back of his head.
Which I'm not being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually quite important that it's. Ooh, I'm just smacking the.
That is true. Actually, it does feature the back of his head for a lot of it, and it's interesting because it places you obviously very subjectively within him, but because you're just this much removed, like, you're able to glimpse a little bit more than he's seen.
Or I think something that we should speak about is like how much you can't see.
Yes,
because
this is
go for it.
No, I mean, this is what's interesting too, is because there's so much horror involved, obviously, in a death camp like Auschwitz. But when you're seeing, bodies that are being discarded or whatever terrible things are happening, it's almost as if, I think they're using a lens that's a bit wider too, and and it's sort of like blurring into the sides. It's like becoming peripheral, right? And so they're giving you a taste, like, not a taste, I guess, but they're giving you a look at what is happening in there, but nothing more. They're not like forcing you to stay with it. Like, it's really a really forward moving film.
Well, the thing that I wanted, like, when I was mentioning, like, things you can't see, I mean, like, quite literally, I know it's been a little while since you saw it, and I literally saw it 2 days ago, I believe.
It has been about like half a month or so.
So what I meant was, like, it's literally so much of it is soft. Or and what I mean by that, like, it's out of focus. Like, the shot is out of focus, and the very first image you have is just this still shot that feels like it's on a tripod or something.
Doesn't it open soft?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like it literally opens,
that's
and it's just a bunch of blurry screen, and, like, you're like, what the hell's going on? And it doesn't, like, snap into focus or anything. It waits a long time, and you see this figure walking towards you, and that's what's so kind of interesting, is that it kind of withholds this information from you, not necessarily on purpose, but because it's unimportant to the story of Saul, right? And like that's
true.
what's so interesting
Yeah.
for this film and for me as sort of like a mechanism that you use narratively is that it's not like, look, most films would be like, holy crap,
Like,
we're in
look at what's
like,
happening around
yeah,
it. Yeah, I
these
completely
trains,
understand what you're
who
saying.
are these people, why they have
Right.
red X's, and literally for the first 3 minutes, that first shot, you're just watching some dude, you're like, I don't know if you're good or bad.
Mhm.
You're walking because like I knew nothing about
Well,
this film,
there's no context.
right?
There's no context for the first shot at all.
So
Yeah.
you're walking with this guy. You're like, okay, he's touching people. Is he a good person? Bad
Right.
person? He's
Right.
telling people to go somewhere without actually using words or anything. And then he bumps into this, what you find out is eventually is like a German soldier. And then he all of a sudden like goes down, looks away, and you're like, oh, I thought you were in charge. What the hell's going on? And so that is
So
just,
yeah,
yeah, it's just
the
one
only
example.
thing that would tip you off if you're Jewish or if you know a little bit about the Holocaust is I think at one point like the camera dips just low enough that you can see like a yellow star on his shirt, so that like anything with a symbol on your shirt and you're automatically like you're a prisoner. So
Right,
whether
and
or not you're in command or not, like that would just be. But beyond that, there really is very little context you're given.
And like, but that's what I mean. It's like that shot. It's not a close up or anything. It literally just the story is about a guy who wants to give a child a burial,
Right.
and that's only what the film focuses on. It doesn't give a shit about anything else, and
Well,
that creates this weird.
Yeah.
At least for me, like that's what it felt like, and it gave this really weird experience with something that we've all heard about, right? Yeah, you seem like you want to jump in there briefly.
Well, I think that you're right, but I also think that the film is a lot about how, especially using the cinematic element. I think it's a lot about how those fringe elements just start to invade no matter what. Like he is at some point involved in, and this actually it's a historical event, but it's an uprising of those Sonder commandos, those like workers in the camp. And it is like a major historical event and major like event in the history of that camp, but it remains on the periphery for as long as possible, and he sort of doesn't allow it to enter his consciousness for the most part because he has one. It's one of the few films that has one singular goal on its mind, but also allows the full breadth, I think, of a lot of the Holocaust to sort of kind of invade the periphery. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think it just means like these elements come in organically, right? There's no like exposition or like really bad lines or certain shots that be like, by the way, this is a bad guy. He's got a mask on. Like, it doesn't do any of that. Like the guy will just walk by, and then at some point you realize, holy crap, all these people are wearing masks, right? Or whatever. Or like you would only see a certain corner, right? And like I feel like if you went and saw some either super tired or drunk or something like that, like you may not pick up on most of what's happening.
No, it's true. That's true. Yeah.
Just because nothing's straight out told to you, right?
No, there's so much going on, and it doesn't. It waits for you at some moments, like in the beginning, and then it just takes off during, I would say, almost all the rest of it. Yeah.
So that's what's really interesting is that it uses cinematic elements to really it just isn't a good example of using cinematic elements to create a new color to a topic that has been done before, right? Honestly, I didn't expect a sort of intimate film about the Holocaust, and it in some way, and basically in most ways, it actually remains a very intimate film. And that's what's kind of interesting is like I feel like a lot of films, maybe not necessarily about the Holocaust, but certain problems like Hotel Rwanda or whatever, it starts as something small, but always ends up with this like huge scope, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that in this film doesn't even bother trying. It ends on the moment of one guy looking at a child and smiling, essentially, right? And that kid running away, right? So it has a lot of bravery for and is keeping with a singular goal like that.
No, definitely. And in terms of the intimacy, and also I guess this sort of pulls into the obscurity that we were talking about earlier, but I think the only time that we're ever given any slight background information, I think there's a little bit of dialogue peppered throughout, but there's one scene where he meets up to get a a package from one of the women
Mm.
in, I can't remember now, it's been a while, but he
Mm.
goes to it, so at some point of
Mm.
some part of the camp
Yeah.
where he receives a package to
Mm.
deliver to the rebels,
Mm.
and he meets up with this one woman, and you can tell that there's some either
Thing.
previous relationship, or they were married, or
Mm.
sister, like there's
Mm.
something there that was just lost forever.
You know
I
how they do
think
that? One word.
what
Saul.
is he, Saul, right?
Right? But and
That's
I'll get to what you're mentioning in a moment.
yeah,
But like literally the girls, like everyone else talks whatever, and it's just that one word, and you know
mm-hmm.
that the person knows him because he never mentions his name or anything, right? Like how else would she
Right,
know his
right.
name? But the line that you're thinking of is that when the rebel leader, I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name.
Mm-hmm.
Something to do with F. But he's like, oh, I can't go with you. Take Saul, and then he's like, why? And he goes, he knows her, and he's like, no, I don't.
Right, right. That's right. He
Right?
actually does. Yeah,
So it's really interesting.
yeah.
It's like, why would he say he doesn't know this woman, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so it kind of like it's just sort of a
That's actually interesting.
yeah, it's two lines essentially, or I guess three lines if you
I
really
feel
think
like
about
I
it.
feel like there's a lot of as much as Saul
Mm.
like hasn't done anything wrong, like in
Mm.
the larger context of
Mm.
this, I feel like there's an intense amount of guilt and
Mm.
shame that he bears.
Mm.
Like, don't you feel that he's sort of like taking on so much
Mm.
more than perhaps he should, and that's why like this singular goal, he's so
Mm.
dedicated to that.
Well, yeah, and like
Yeah,
I mean, all you have to say is like you are taking your fellow person, your
hmm,
fellow people, and you're telling them that they're gonna take a clean shower and have some tea, when in actuality you're mass murdering them. Like he's not actually,
right.
but he is.
But he is,
That's
yeah,
that. Why wouldn't you feel guilty, right?
right. And it's also it's the unfortunate fact
Mm,
that there is literally nothing he can do
mm. Or at least he
to
feels
offset,
like it,
or it
right?
feels like it. I mean, eventually,
I
you know,
mean, you could always fight against it, but you die, right? And like I
right,
think that's
right,
where some of the guilt might come from is that like I'm valuing my life over these people or whatever. And
yeah,
like the pragmatist would be like, bide your time, find it, find the right
right,
opportunity,
right.
whatever. But on a sort of like a visceral or primal level, you might be something along the lines of like I'm literally leading these people to the death,
Hmm.
and not just like once a day, but like 3-4 times a day. That's just like that. Why wouldn't you feel horrible and guilty? And like obviously that's sort of what fuels his
Yeah,
honestly tragic flaw, or his eventual demise is that like
right.
he feels so guilty or hell bent on making one small, no matter how small it is, and it's like let's be real, it's a really really small positive, and that
But so
like
I think this is actually
mm,
where some,
mm,
not context, but
mm,
like uh, the idea that the Jews were just burned
mm,
and or stabbed or whatever it may be,
mm,
instead
mm,
of actually buried, is
mm,
actually like a horrifying
mm,
thing for a lot of Jewish
mm.
people,
Okay,
because
explain it to me, because
it
like
doesn't.
I don't have any
Yeah,
like
well, basically you're
mm,
robbing them of the last ritual that
mm,
they're allowed in life, or
mm,
the passage of
mm,
life to death, right?
mm,
So you're not
mm,
only taking away like their life, their physical
mm,
life, but you're taking away any semblance of a spiritual life, or
mm,
a Jewish life that they had
mm,
left, because they're not able to be
mm,
buried or to have any customs
mm,
in the transfer from life to death. They're just they're pieces of meat.
mm,
So he's essentially, it is a small act.
mm,
I mean, as I know, as
mm,
you're saying, like
mm,
contextually, but for someone who is Jewish,
mm,
that is an immensely huge
mm.
thing. It's an
So
immensely huge act.
my no,
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word argument, but
No, that's okay.
my sort of counterpoint to that
Sure.
is that like in attempting to save one person's spiritual life,
Right.
he damns other people,
Sure. Yeah.
a lot
And
of other
and that's
people,
no.
like
Yeah.
his
That's true.
entire rebel group. And like I'm not saying he's a bad person. I
No.
totally
No.
get it,
No.
whatever. And it's a really interesting sort of story, but like he
Mhm.
totally fucks off with the package and doesn't
Right.
even worry about it. And
No, it's true. Yeah.
right, like he he didn't have to lose a package, but he did in his attempt to find a rabbi.
100%. Yeah.
So and like that just creates more color to it, because like it's totally completely understandable, and like you still care about Saul, but he also screws the people that are alive around him, right? And so that's what creates an interesting story, and that's why, at least me personally, that's why I'm so interested in intimate films, because yes, James Bond saving the world from another explosion or whatever, that's great, but intimate films like this where like where you go, would I do that? Or like could I let this child who deserves this burial, could I sacrifice that for the life of my brethren, my the people around me, right? And that's what's interesting to me. That's why I like intimate films, because I honestly think they speak volumes. They perpetuate things that we need to think about. And yeah, just in case you're ever wondering why I like tiny little films, because I don't think they're tiny at all, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I like films that make me think about that.
This was in the top 10 special, but in case you missed that or didn't find the part that I was talking about,
we'll put annotations somewhere around here.
Sure, yeah. So somewhere, hey guys, please check it out. It's fun. It's like a lot of fun. You gotta. It's way more fun than watching this movie. But I think what's also interesting is the film is just filled with little moments where Saul has agency. And obviously the film is him trying to like use the little agency he has to do one singular goal. But there was one scene where he walks into a doctor's office to try to retrieve
I have
the body.
An interesting point to you on that. But anyways,
sure.
Continue. Yeah.
I think I know what it is going to be because I looked this up the other day. But it's a moment when he's dancing with the doctor, and then the way that I had remembered it is that he sort of gives him like a subtle like fuck you, and then he's asked to leave. But I think I know what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I just watched this, and for the people, like, just to put quick context to the top 10, like we had a category, it's like our favorite moment. And Mitch basically said like this moment where he has this dance, and he sold me on the film by saying like this is the moment, everything, which I still saw it, and I'm very happy I did. I gave it an A, whatever. But I digress. What I saw when I saw that film was a guy attempting to find a way out, not like a fuck you or a screw you or whatever, but it looked like the German soldier was actually waiting for him to do something. Right, whereas when Mitch had explained it to me and Nathan in the other video, it sounded like they danced already, and then he was like, "You think you can assault me this way? Let's dance again." Right, and I prefer that moment, but I don't think that I didn't read it that way.
It may not be there, and
that's sad.
Unfortunately, I was thinking about it the other day, but that. So this is why I have to see it again, because I just viscerally remember a look that he gives him. By the way, Geza Rohrig, who's the main lead in this film, is phenomenal. His performance is built around like just giving the audience enough information about his inner life. But that was why I thought
slightly bold statement. In terms of mostly silent performances, I vastly prefer this one over Leonardo DiCaprio.
I think that's completely valid. I would almost agree with you. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna ask.
No, in fact, I probably would agree with you because I think Leo, just give him the Oscar, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, but if it were not for this film, he deserve it for anything else.
But if it were me, this performance would be a no-brainer, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just because people haven't seen Son of Saul, like no one cares about it. It's not like a Moore where I think more people knew Michael Haneke and that presence, like but yeah, there was something watching that scene where I saw, like, I think I probably did recognize that he was trying to get out of there, but I sort of saw that he was, I don't know. Did
you want that moment to exist? Because I've done that before.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe because there's so much sorrow in that character's journey, I was like, oh,
Yeah, you just
Man,
wanted it to exist, and like I've done that before, where
that
like,
could be it. Isn't
and
that
where
interesting?
I've had people, I'm like, oh yeah, and this character does that, and they're like,
Like
uh, uh
that scene
huh,
is a Rorschach test for people who watch.
yeah,
So
exactly, right, and
that's
like I
interesting.
think your moment works, like it
Yeah,
could coexist, in that film, but I just, unfortunately, just wasn't quite there. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's too
Uh,
bad.
let's just briefly talk about the ending.
I was gonna say this is where
Yeah.
we should go next.
Um.
What it because I remember that
hmm.
it like
Do you want
it
me to give you
was
a quick sort of recap on it, just so that you kind of
no,
remember
no,
in it
because the
details? No.
ending I remember vividly,
There was a
and that's the thing.
unicorn, and like they were running,
Yeah,
and like
yep,
there was like
all of that,
galloping. You saw a
all yep.
leprechaun.
No, the thing is, like, I think because the
Mm,
reason that I can't remember every detail of this film so
mm,
much is because it's so visceral and it's so forward moving.
mm,
But I can pick up like certain things
mm,
from it. Like there's a very distinctly hazy scene at one point. I
mm,
think pretty close to the end, and there's a great point where I think Saul has a camera at one point. Anyway, but the ending I remember like so vividly
mm,
because it's the first time that it breaks perspective. Really,
mm.
I think
Yep.
as much as it does.
Mm,
Um, and you know, for the longest time, I was looking at the guy that was bleeding,
mm,
almost as if like he was gonna watch him like pass out at
mm,
the end of the shot.
mm.
I just, for some
Never
reason, they
occurred to
keep
me.
popping his head out.
Mm,
Had no clue that
mm.
was gonna be that one was gonna be
Honestly,
there.
my darker side. You know what I thought was gonna happen?
Yeah.
What do you know what I thought was gonna happen?
No, no, I'm
No,
saying yeah. Like, go ahead.
I I, I thought that they were gonna realize that the kid was there, and that they were basically gonna grab the kid and in some way, suffocate him and kill him,
Because he was
because he would have called the
because he would
German
have done it
soldiers or
anyway.
something,
Yeah.
and like it was like how many more kids
Right.
have to die for, and then it
Right.
just leaves you with another thing. It was like, this trading of lives. Is it like at what point is it
It's
just kind of
interesting.
absurd? And then honestly, maybe it's just I really wanted that to happen because I Saul was like I never thought that Saul was gonna do it, but I thought like the kid would like kind of peek in, and then some guy
Mm-hmm.
would like see him and just like grab him, and then like Saul would try and stop whatever. But um, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about the ending, where it's just like,
think I think what it is, as much as
mm,
possible, because it's always a question of whether Saul has a son or
mm.
not, right? Because
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah, I
it's
forgot to talk about
explained,
that.
but there's never really an answer to that.
Mm,
And my thing is, the
mm,
answer is
mm.
as much as possible, or as much as the film is going to give us. The answer is the son of Saul is
The son of all.
just just no, but like the son of Saul is just sort of like the hope that
Mm.
a better life is going to continue for someone.
Yeah. Well,
Like
like that's yeah.
someone's just going to go on, right?
Yeah.
So Saul's gift in a way of smiling is just sort of, well, this kid is alive, so perhaps he'll figure a way to not
Mm,
fuck this whole thing up.
mm.
And
That's kind of
then you
interesting
follow
when I
him
think
and he
about
runs
it.
away.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel
And it's very
like
sad, obviously,
mm,
but
I feel like it for me. It wasn't quite enough for. I actually almost considered giving the film an A minus because of this moment, but I ultimately didn't.
okay.
And I just feel like it's not enough for me to see Saul see the kid and smile. Like I need Saul to
But you,
actively, in some
yeah.
small way, save the kid, tell him to run away, to do whatever, but just to actually actively do something tiny,
However,
absolutely minuscule.
however,
Mm,
on the like on the point that you said, like
mm,
if he had said something, they would have grabbed him.
mm,
And then, to be fair, the German soldiers come, they're just
mm,
going to shoot anyway, right?
mm,
So I think he's smart enough to know that if he
mm,
sees the kid,
mm,
they're dead.
mm,
It's not like, oh, he
mm,
sees the kid, maybe the kid will lead him
mm,
somewhere, or they can,
mm.
like I think his thinking would just be, we're dead,
Yeah. Well, like the thing
right?
is like it was kind of a neat thing that you thought like, oh, they made all this distance, it slowed down, and they actually got away. They're actually
Yeah,
talking about plans they're gonna do, and they just get caught like
right.
that. I thought it was kind of an interesting sort of turn, but the whole film for me was about taking that small amount of agency, as you said, or a small sort of control that you have
Right.
and doing something with it. And you could argue to me that like the fact that he doesn't do something is control, but it just doesn't, that for me it doesn't quite stick the landing as well as
So
a film where I'm literally watching this guy like risk arm and leg and body and everything. Like he's literally risking himself to go into a pit just to get a rabbi. Like I just give me something very small of actual active change.
So here's my my other thought about this, and this will tie, I think, actually back into the whole typical Holocaust movie discussion we're having. But Michael Haneke, actually, it's interesting that we mentioned him because he has, I think, one of the most famous like statements about Holocaust films, and specifically about Schindler's List. He thinks that Schindler's List is an abominable like blight on film history because he argues that almost any film on the Holocaust is automatically a terrible thing to do because to make entertainment out of the fact that the Holocaust was, you know, that it existed is irresponsible to the fact that millions of lives died for nothing, right? And then I think Kubrick also says something like the Holocaust film can't be made because the Holocaust was all about failure. It wasn't actually about human success in the slightest.
I think you said Kubrick?
Kubrick also, said something like that. That Stanley Kubrick. That the Holocaust was about failure. To make a Holocaust film might be self-defeating in a way. I think this was, in my mind, the only compromise that I can think of. That is a silent action that enables someone else, you know, on the German side, as it may be, but it's the only action in a series of failures that seems remotely possible. Because I think the idea that they would all just be murdered is unfortunately very realistic and very much how the Holocaust went until the very end.
Yeah,
that it was just death and failure, and that's what it was. And so I think this film is different in the fact that it embraces that it was still a failure and that the Holocaust in itself is a failure, but I think it gives the slightest glimmer of hope towards the end. And that's as much as I could honestly reconcile. So
yeah, I don't know, because like, I mean, we're talking about like I don't know, that's not good, but like, you know, option A or option A section A. Like, you know, like,
right.
We're literally like that sort of thing. I just wanted something. Yeah, I can see the argument, but I think we'll just leave the audience to kind of think about that and, you know, let themselves reconcile with what they can. Other than that, do you have any parting thoughts before we let them wallow in their sorrow?
No, other than you'll for sure want to be watching a sketch comedy show after this, because it takes you to some dark places, for sure.
Right, guys. Thanks for watching. Again, this is another episode of QQ. We're Second Perspective. My name's Paul Weston. Over there's Mitch Allen. And until next time, see you guys.
Bye, everybody.